This video is about devotion and non-duality. The word devotion, usually we connect it with the path of Bhakti Yoga, not the path of Jnana Yoga or the path of wisdom, but to Bhakti Yoga, the path of the heart. However, devotion has application on both paths, and it's a misunderstanding to consider that devotion is only in reference to Bhakti Yoga. Philip Kapleau wrote a book on Zen. It's called The Three Pillars of Zen. He explains the significance and value of devotion in the path of Zen. In the same way, another sage from the path of Jnana Yoga, his name was Sri Yukteswar. He was the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda. He was a jnani, and a jnani is a yogi that has attained liberation through the path of Jnana Yoga or the Yoga of Wisdom. In this case, Yukteswar goes as far as saying that without devotion you cannot even take one step, meaning one step towards liberation. So we need to understand what devotion is about and also develop devotion if we want to attain liberation in the path of non-duality. It's absolutely necessary. So what is devotion really? There are two aspects to the word devotion, and seldom they are described separately, but here I'm going to try to do this. One aspect is when the word is used as a synonym for surrender. Surrender or letting go is very much part of the path of Jnana or the path of non-duality, and you can surrender whatever is in the mind-body organism that is less than ideal. For this you can use the surrendering technique in its non-dual form, meaning that at the moment of the surrender is done to the whole, or to consciousness, or to the divine. You don't need to say, I am surrendering this, although you can, but you don't need to. It's simply that something that is an obstacle is being surrendered. It's the use of the passive voice in English, which has no subject. So when you surrender something in the path of non-duality, it's being surrendered. It's not that you are surrendering it. And it's not surrendered to God, it is just surrendered to the whole, or is surrendered to the divine. So you may notice that in the surrendering technique, the statements that are used are practically all of them non-personal, impersonal. It's an impersonal process of letting go. There is another aspect of devotion that is not so much about surrender, but it's about the desire for liberation, the desire for enlightenment, the desire for God would be a way to put it in dualistic terms, and would be more appropriate for Bhakti Yoga. But the concept is essentially the same, and the impact on the spiritual life is the same. Is the desire, the urge, and because it's not a mundane desire, it's a yearning, it's an urge, it's the desire at a transpersonal level that is moving you towards liberation. And that you that I'm talking about is an illusion, yes, but at least it seems to be real, right? Although it's not. So there is no one really moving towards liberation, but there is a movement that is happening towards liberation. For that movement to happen towards liberation, there has to be the desire for liberation, and it has to be intense, or as intense as possible. Of course, there is no one here or in your body that can actually increase the desire for liberation. So I highly recommend that you do not try to force this, because it's not going to work. The solution is, yes, create the intention to increase. There is an intention to increase the desire for liberation. There is an interest in exploring what liberation could give you, why it's so desirable, so that this interest, the desire for liberation, can increase and multiply. So why devotion is so significant in the whole process? Because without devotion, we don't have the interest to attain enlightenment, and if there is no interest, then there is no progress. But if there is interest, if there is desire, if there is yearning, if there is devotion, then progress happens rapidly. So the only thing I can recommend is intend to develop devotion. If you're more connected to the path of bhakti, you can ask the divine to increase your desire for enlightenment, your desire for liberation. If you are not so inclined for the bhakti position, you still may say, from this I that is an illusion, I speak and I request to the divine to increase here in this mind-body organism the desire for enlightenment. Doesn't matter how you do it, but do it. Make sure that devotion increases in your life, or otherwise there will be not much progress. Also keep in mind that by our own actions we are increasing the desire for enlightenment. How? By reading books that inspire us, watching videos that inspire us and help us to understand more and more of the path and the goal. And through our devoted action to the goal of liberation, we are increasing our interest, our devotion for the goal.